Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What's your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
That's perfect for this film about the chilliness.
Oh.
Your house must be full. Your house must be Snowtown, or what the hell is it called? Snow Hill or whatever. What's it called?
Yeah, I think it was Snow Hill, right? Yeah, that
Snow
sounds
Hill,
right.
yeah.
Snowtown, I would have thought of those horrible murders.
Yes. Oh, no. Well, there's horrible murders in this too. So,
I know.
so buckle up, Buttercup.
There's less torture.
It's true, yeah.
No, yeah, it's there's not nearly enough shaving cream in my actual life though, like in this movie.
Really though, yeah. You do keep the beard, so.
Yeah, dude, I don't remember the last time I used shaving cream. It's been decades.
Yeah, I don't think I've gone to skin because that grow back, dude. Who wants that?
Gross. It's gross.
Yeah.
That's just our personal opinion here. This is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast.
Tell us, do you like to shave or what?
Yeah.
What's your preference? Are you like the sheriff in this movie where he shaves pretty good and it's pretty awesome?
It is pretty good because it's like it does feel like a real shave. Where it's like I always feel like in the movies it's like. It feels like just for the one shot, and then they film the next part like way later. But in this one, he like still has shaving cream like all in his shit.
Well, dude,
it's probably because they just had so much left over. They're like, we gotta fucking put shaving cream somewhere in here.
I know, yeah. They like put it on his face, and the like makeup artist was like, God, this looks just like snow.
Oh,
go out, kid.
Oh,
Thistle or whatever the hell it's called. But
so. This is we're doing Western months, right?
That's my segue for you, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Western months. We're in the sauce now, and I couldn't be happier. This week we watched The Great Silence, a Italian spaghetti western, 1968. What was it? Carbucci? Is that what it was?
Yeah, Carbucci, maybe. Yeah.
But
it's Sergio Carbucci.
I feel like only dudes named Sergio are allowed to make these kind of movies.
I know. Really, there's got to be like 8 that make these like I don't know, the Italian Western / kind of just. He does a lot of like he's basically made like every style of film that exists. Yeah. But like it's so weird how they do like it's an Italian like disposition, but like the American lens. It's such a weird. I always feel like did they visit like for like a summer and they're like America's pretty all right.
I don't know. Like were we just sent dropping like fucking propaganda pamphlets over there? Like you did say,
like
they're like, oh yeah, America looks pretty cool. Look at all these. It's like Rocky Mountain High, baby. The land of the free, allegedly. So
not today,
no,
not today, Fred.
So we I'm going to try and synopsis it for you, or do you want to try? So, and up front, we'll get into it a little bit more, but I'm going to use the names that were, if I remember, that were in the American dub, the English dub. So, just so you know. So, The Great Silence, right? It follows this dude named Silence, who's a play on the man with no name. He's not a bounty hunter. He's actually kind of just a killer for hire, but he's got like a moral code.
Bounty is kind of a bounty hunter.
Well, I know, but it's not for law. He just like people hire him personally, but he only kills people in self-defense, and he can't talk because he gets throat slit. But there's this group of outlaws living in the woods, possibly religiously persecuted in Utah, and to make that with what you will, and. They kind of reach out to him to help kill some bounty hunters that are after them, and that's how the movie starts. And so a couple of the guys leave the group, and they're like, no, fuck it, we're waiting for amnesty, and I'm sick of living in the woods, and they go back to their, people in town that they know, at which point there are more bounty hunters, and they immediately track them down and fucking kill them. And
it's a lot of that in this movie, which I love. That's great how, things just, like the resolution is so like point blank. It's great.
Literally. And so these other guys die, and one is a young man and his mom is very sad, and then the other one is another young man and his wife is very sad and then angry. And
Vengeance.
And one of these guys is Klaus Kinski, the character Loco. He's kind of like one of the main characters of the movie, main antagonist. And he's a bounty hunter, and he obviously is likes to kill, but he does it all. It's like his job, right? And it's all legal, back in that day. And so Silence goes to town, and the woman whose son was killed was like, "Please, Mr. Silence, kill this bounty hunter that killed my son." And so he like provokes him and kills him, and everyone's starting to hear about the what's the guy's name? I don't know. The justice of the court, like shop owner, magistrate of the town.
Oh, right. He's kind of just like everything he wanted to be.
Yeah,
he's the Swearingen of the town.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. And he's crooked as fuck, and he's basically like telling Loco like, "Hey, this guy Silence is in town, and he killed your buddies, and he's gonna kill you too, so you better kill him." And Loco's like, "Well, I could like to see him try it. He can't provoke me, if I know that's his game. He's not gonna shoot me in the back."
Such a good scene.
Yeah. And so there's that whole spiel going. All the while, the woman, I forget her name, but she goes to Silence.
Pauline, I think
something like that. Yeah, Pauline.
That's what it says on IMDb.
Oh,
Pauline.
well, I'm calling her Pauline. She goes to try and hire him to avenge her husband's death, but she doesn't have the money, so she's like, "Well, I'll be your lover," and so so that kind of works out though, but she has standards because the other guy tries to pull that too, and she thinks he's ick, but Silence, he's the sexy brooding type. What else? So
I mean that's kind of that like
I'm just hitting the broad strokes, right? And so
gets vengeance on.
he goes along.
Pauline,
he does finally come, and the sheriff comes into town. He's like the new sheriff, and he actually hates the bounty hunters too, and so he kind of like ends up naturally siding with Silence, who has at least got a moral code and stuff, and he actually ends up arresting Loco in this moment because there is a shootout where Loco is like kind of involved but not really, but all his buddies get killed and Silence gets shot, and that's how he ends up back with Pauline or whatever. And so the sheriff is like, "I'm arresting him. I don't give a fuck. Law of the land. I don't care that you're a bounty hunter. Like, you can eat my dick." And he's like, "You're gonna try and bribe me? I'm gonna up the thing." And so he's like, "I'm taking him into town to rot in the jail there, and if they want to break him out, they can do it there." So they go there, and Loco stops, and he's like, "I need to take a poopy." And he stops. He does. He like takes his whole pants down, and so the guy turns away, and they're like by the frozen lake, and he had killed someone there earlier. So there's like there's a gun in the snow that he had like wrapped earlier in the movie, and so he gets the drop on the sheriff and fucking shoots the frozen ice out from under him, and the sheriff just falls in and dies.
Yep.
Loco gets away with it, which spoiler, that's kind of his thing. And so he goes back to town, and he's like, you know what? He rounds up some of his buddies, and he's like, "Fuck these guys. I'm going to go deal with this Silence guy and all these bandits that have bounties on them that are actually just, people on the run. They all have bounties too, and it's a huge payday. Let's go into town." So they do the classic outlaw gang rides into town. They ride back into town, but now there's no sheriff. And meanwhile, the Swearingen, turns out he has some weird connection with Silence, that Silence blew his fucking thumbs off in the past, but he tries to like rape his new girlfriend, and he's a creep about it. And him and his buddy, they get shot and attacked, but Silence gets further hurt, and his hand gets all burned, and he's already injured from that other shootout. And so Loco and his gang come back, or the gang of bounty hunters that are perfectly above the law. They come back, and they actually gather up all the supposed bandits that have been on the run. It's like a dozen people, and brings them to the saloon, and is like, "Hey, Silence, if you don't come out here and fight me 1-to-1, I'm just going to execute these guys, and it's totally within my right, and I'm going to collect the bounty on them." So Silence, he goes out, he tries to make a stand, and Pauline's like, "Don't do it, you're too weak." And he goes out, and one hand's all burned, and she's like, "It's a trap," and he knows it's a trap, but he goes, because it's like, what else is he going to do? And they go and they shoot his other hand right before he's about to get in this fight. And he's like can't pull his gun, and he tries, and Loco just fucking brains him, just shoots him in the head, kills him, just fucking kills him, and then
Straight dead.
The Pauline runs up, it's like no, and tries to kill him too, and she gets gunned down also.
Yeah.
And Loco's just being Loco, and then he's like, all right, let's kill all these guys, and they just fucking firing squad everyone in this place.
Right. It's like you sit there. There's like the dramatic pause where you're like, okay, Loco like has to die, right?
You
like you know,
I wasn't ready.
Like, yeah, no, I like literally was like, I kept being like, yeah, I mean, you know, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I'm like, something's gonna happen. She's gonna save him, and I'm like, you know, no way they just killed the sheriff. Like maybe he comes back.
Right. That's kind of the misdirect. But dude, and then when they're like, oh, let's do it, and then it's just 45 seconds.
Dude,
of like,
it's so brutal too, because like they're not dying instantly. They're just like, ah!
It's good, yeah. It is a firing squad for sure. Like, it's
yeah, they shoot the shit out of him, and they're like, all right, these guys all had bounties, so don't feel bad about it. Let's get out of here. We'll come back and collect all these bodies and get our payday. They just like leave. Silence is dead. The sheriff's
that was
dead.
The only part. That was the only part that I was confused by. Is why'd they leave? Did they say why? Was there a reason? I'm like,
I don't
why
know.
didn't they just collect them then? Like, was he tired? Like, why do you, I mean, I get for narrative, it's for more dramatic to
bring
we
in
leave
a
these cold
couple.
bodies.
I know, right?
but I was like, don't you want the bodies now? Like, what? He didn't say like we need to go get like a wagon. Like
He
was
he
just
does
like,
that. I know he does that with the other
just
bodies
walks away.
earlier on too, where it's like you
guess he
could just
leaves them
throw
in the
them.
snow.
Yeah, he's like but you could just like save yourself a trip at least a little bit and like throw one over to the fucking horse or something. I don't
The
know.
horse, drag it, right? Couldn't you? I mean, I guess you damage it. Like you have to prove that it's
true.
to collect the bounty. But I also was like, who's he going to collect the bounty from? I guess just
He's got to go to the next big town and be like, I don't know what happened to that sheriff. He just disappeared.
he's going to be like,
who is there to
no
contradict him at this point? You know what I mean? He kills, because I didn't even mention it, but he also kills the only other, like every character dies except for the bad guy. Because even the mistress, I guess is what you call that, like runs kind of the whorehouse, that she's like trying to love on the sheriff a little bit.
Yeah.
She just gets gunned down too. And so there's everyone in like the
whorehouse gets
no one
down.
good is like left to tell the story. And so it's just like, yeah, it's whatever narrative they want it to be. And it's like, you know, he killed Loco in self-defense, kind of. Like, it's like, but yeah, it's brutal. It ends. It's super brutal. All the good guys die and all the bad guys win with no repercussions.
Yeah, right. Kind of like, it's interesting because it's like, I just finished this today, so like I haven't had time to really think about the like broader themes behind the reason it ends like it ends. Like I'm pleasantly surprised because I totally was just like the whole time it just was so tropey that I was like, this is great. But then when it ended, I really was like, oh, this is cool. Like, it's great. I love that. It's like, I was like kind of gutted here. Like,
like you said off camera, it's amazing that this movie is 1968 because it's like, it is such a subversion on like more than like, because when we've talked about before, like anti-Westerns, quote unquote, from like the 70s and stuff that kind of try and flip it on the head of the anti-hero, but it's still very still pretty by the books. And it's like, this really does everything to make you think that it's just like another one of these classic movies where you got this silent hero and he's like vulnerable and all this. And it just says, fuck that shit. Fuck your hope. You know, the bad guys win.
Especially like, it's kind of like the trope when it's like they have their like lovemaking scene where they're together, that usually like, that means they live. Like it's always kind of that where like when they have, when the love interest like goes into that scene, I totally was like expecting them to live. So I was like, oh wow, they both died.
Yeah, I know.
Like he wasn't even left to like mourn. Just
she gets mown the fuck down too.
Yeah,
and I know because it's interesting because it's like these kind of heroes do not die in these kind of movies, especially in this era, unless they go out in like a blaze of glory and they sacrifice and it's very heroic and they still get the bad guy. You know what I mean? But maybe they die and then they're remembered all John Wayne style.
They always get him.
But in this,
like,
it's just like
their lovers' hands,
nothing,
and arms, and
it's
it'd be like, oh.
very, very nihilistic and like very pessimistic. Which
and the whole movie, now that I like think about it more, kind of has like there's a lot of desperation with everybody. Like all the characters are like, this shit is hard, and we're just like, we're kind of just like, screw you. We just want to
everyone's just like
do our thing. Even the good guys, kind of.
Yeah, it's very compulsory. Everyone's just kind of like having to like everyone kills for revenge. It just kills to get what they need. Like it's very everything is cold blooded, which and the fact that this movie is just so icy and snowy.
I mean, literally, stuck in the snow, and when they kill those. I like the mountain bit because that's what's funny. It's like I didn't quite understand. I might have missed it in the movie, but the outlaws kind of bounty dudes that are the ones that have the bounty on them, and they're I don't really know exactly what they did. Because in the Italian version, it doesn't really get into them very much, their backstory, really, why they're kind of retreating into the woods. But I'm it's interesting that this movie didn't show them. The only way they ever showed up was when they receded from the tree line and came into a character and interacted with a character, and then they would just dissipate into the woods.
That is true. Where it's they didn't have their own scenes. Where in another movie they would have kind of been the focus,
or they would have been a large subplot that shows their encampment and their traditions and who they are more.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that they didn't. But I kind of was man, what? It's they're just eating horse meat and living in a pine tree. What are they doing?
Yeah, dude. Pretty much. That's why those other guys leave, because he's I'm sick of being cold. You know what I mean,
dude? Oh, I can relate so hard with that, man. The cold. I don't know what happened. I used to have such a tough shell where I'd wear shorts year round in Utah, and now I'm chilly. If it's below 40, I'm like I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah,
what happened to my bones?
I know.
I know. My skin.
I know. It's I don't know. Yeah, those guys that is kind of surprising, and you point that out. It's that group. In any other movie, there'd be
expecting it.
They try to, especially with how tragic
confession.
the ending is at the end. It's you thought you were gonna get more of them.
Well, dude, and we didn't in your synopsis. You don't quite get into the detail that the sheriff misled them. Was we're gonna give you amnesty. You can come down. We'll have a wagon full of food. Come get it. He's showing sympathy, and then he gets killed, and they don't know that, and so they all come into town unsuspecting for thinking that there's gonna be
they're kind of protected. Yeah,
yeah, right, because the sheriff basically said they were,
and now it's a fucking trap. You know what I mean? It's like a booby trap.
Right.
It's so
and that's such a tragic layer on top of it too, where they're going in thinking it's cool, and then it's kind of just they're dying on their knees with the last thought being well, the sheriff fucked us with this whole town.
I know, right? Where's the sheriff?
It's brutal.
He's just fucking frozen in the lake.
I know, dude.
Well, they spend so much time setting him up too, is to be kind of he's kind of the sidekick.
He's a good shoot.
Yeah, he's a good shot.
Good shot.
Which that's such a great scene where it's
they're
shooting the potatoes, and it's just some guy off camera just throwing them.
Yes, dude. Yes, I love. Oh my god, I love. Yeah, that filmmaking is so beautiful, and I love the sound effects back in just even. I mean, they still kind of do it in the 90s and stuff too, but specifically late 60s and through the 70s. The gunshot ADR is so good.
It's so cool.
I don't know what gun. It's I swear to God, they're shooting some Vietnam machine gun or something.
Something.
when it goes
so
off,
intense.
but it's so good. Yeah.
It's crunchy.
Oh, I love it.
Well,
it is, yeah.
I love Silence too, because it's he is a great shot, but it's he has that automatic pistol,
Yeah.
that's in his cool wooden holster, so doesn't get fucked up. And it's just even his gun has just got this crazy weird edge, and that's funny because it's everything he does, he's not he's got his code, but it's not really honorable. He's still got this gun that's gonna out he can shoot up a whole room way easier because he just kind of spray and pray that when they're all playing poker, that whole room he just wastes them fucking machine gun style. But it's interesting because he. In any other movie, and that's why early on I felt oh, okay, they already are subverting it, is because in so many movies they make bounty hunters the heroes, you know what I mean, and they're chasing they kind of can work outside the law, and because the law maybe is crooked in the old West, or it's can't do it on its own, and so the bounty hunters are these heroes, and in any other ones, Silence he just he won't murder someone outright, but he'll push them until they draw on him, and then he'll murder them. But it's like he's on paper much more of a criminal and like skeezy, but it's like he's the hero. And so it was like interesting already from the get-go that it's like, oh, these other guys that are just like absolute pieces of shit are like in the bounty hunter role and like technically on the side of the law. You know what I mean? But they're not like they're not crooked lawmen either, which is like also the trope, too. But
yeah, I did. Yeah, I appreciated that where it's like they are working. I don't know. They serve their own.
Oh, 100%.
Where they
like,
do want
well,
to, like,
Loco,
they want the money and they like to murder. Like he's
Loco
just, like, it's easier to kill.
He likes to kill. Because he literally, like, you don't get too much from him other than obviously just Klaus Kinski being super terrifying at all times. So.
I know, and yes, as
in life
just,
and in
yes, God, I know, really though.
But the scene when he finally meets Silence and Silence is like throwing the match in his drink and then throws the cigar in his drink.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I've been waiting for this. Like, he's like, was wanting someone, what does he say? He's like, someone interesting or someone amusing, I think is what he said.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I was looking for something like, cause like, he's just kind of so desensitized to it. And he's like, oh, this is kind of fun. But then he just like gets his ass kicked and then it turns into a shootout.
And that's what's wild too, is like, it's like Klaus Kinski's so smart how he's like, he's like, I'm up against somebody. It's kind of like the Joker and the Batman or something, if you will. Like that's like it's just like he knows like, oh, the weakness is if I draw my weapon, if I threaten him, he'll kill me. But then when he punches him, I was kind of like, I'm like, that's a gray area, I guess.
Like, that is Batman,
that is right. It's like he has to draw on him.
That's what's so tragic is like his moral code is what gets him killed because it's like. He's faster than him. He could have just killed Loco several times and just killed him in cold blood, which would have been for the greater good. And it's like he is a menace.
And the sheriff probably would have.
Oh yeah, definitely would have. But it's like that's his code. And by the time it turns around, where he can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? He's completely. And he still comes out to face him, even though he knows it's a losing battle and there's no way. Like, but he still is like. Has to try. That's like the one bit of hope maybe is like even though it's hopeless, it's like, and it's not really heroic, but he's not stupid, and so he doesn't go out there and be like thinking he's gonna succeed. I don't think, but it's just like, what else is he gonna do? Like they're gonna kill these guys, and so I gotta go out there and just do my damnedest. And so it's like trying to do the right thing in the face of like. Ultimate defeat and wrongness is still like worth it, I guess, but it doesn't matter because everyone gets murdered.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, well, it probably would have been better if everyone didn't die, and you just killed them earlier when you had the chance. Yeah, I know that Italian, that's one thing. So obviously I really like this movie, but my biggest thing with these movies, it always frustrates me is like the audio and the dubbing and like the multiple, like crazy release, like multiple releases and like different versions and shit. And it makes it like hard to watch, like hard to know what's like definitive. And it's like, I would have loved, I didn't think about it when I went to watch this movie, but of course not. But it's like, they don't record audio on set, right? Hardly ever in these kind of movies. They just like shoot it, just raw dog that shit, and then they just do everything 100% ADR. But even without his voice, Klaus Kinski was so good, and I'm so mad he's such a good actor, dude.
I know, dude. Why? It's so frustrating. Like,
who else? There's so many other fucking actors that are great that are probably horrible people, and I'm like, just don't want to know. Like,
that's true. But
he's gonna find out Daniel Day-Lewis just like fucking eats cats and like
probably. I mean, dude, who knows? Actually, he might though for like
for
health reasons or something. Where he goes where like there's wet markets or something.
You never want him to get cast as a serial killer. You know what I mean? Because this is method acting.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But Klaus Kinski in this, like,
I would have loved to hear his real voice though. You know what I mean? Like in the movie, because it's like he's got a good voice. It's so German though. You know what I mean? But
yeah, but like he can speak English and like, but then I think that's what's hard about these kind of movies is like I never know like sometimes this is like happened in the past. they would shoot literally in native language and in English. Like they would literally just like film both, and like specifically the like the OG, Fistful of Dollars and stuff, like the ones that kind of predate this, they would do that, and they would shoot where like they knew it for like an American audience, like they anticipated that happening, especially getting like someone who's American to be in the film, Clint Eastwood. But with this, it's like Klaus Kinski does he kind of is that Clint Eastwood type, like in that sense, like he can speak English, and he like it would work for that. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like probably too expensive, or I didn't really look too deep into the back of this.
I need to see more Klaus Kinski movies, because I'm like, I don't think he's ever been not the villain. You know what I mean? It's like everything I've ever seen him in, he's been the villain.
I mean,
but I
guess it's
such
hard.
A good one.
Like I hear you say it like Aguirre or whatever. That's hard to say that he's like.
He's definitely the villain.
I mean, yes, but like like colonialism.
Well, I know, but he also he's a betrayer, and he leads all his men to death.
Sure, right, yeah. But he's El Dorado, dude. He's got to find it. He's got to find it.
Aguirre is so good. I think about it all the time.
I know, right? Yeah. But this movie will be one I think about often for this kind of the same, like, or not same reason, Klaus Kinski, but because he like actually kind of played something different in this. Like he still plays the intensity. It's still his like.
But it's like a charm, though. There's like a charm level that's
kind
like
of more whimsical. That's why I don't know why the Joker is like the thing I keep thinking about. Where it's like
well, it's in the eyes, and it's now we know it's just because he actually is a psycho and like all this.
I know, really.
But he's got like those haunting, evil blue eyes. That are like beautiful. Like he's got such an interesting facial structure, but like his eyes are like just beautiful glaciers, but they're like they hypnotize you in, like, so he can molest you.
Yeah, but then there is I know, bummer. But there is like there's a shakiness to him where I'm like something's
that scene. Probably my favorite scene, not my favorite scene in the movie, but like one of my favorite scenes of him is because like his character is like self-assured, kind of cocky, a little bit playful, right? But when he gets jailed, he like gets a little crazy, right? When he's in jail and he's like pushing his face up against the bars and like trying to talk to him. It's like he's like,
hey, he doesn't like to be captured.
But there's like a certain amount of desperation in there, but he's not like being like, let me out. But he's like, come on, doc. Like, look, what are you gonna do, sheriff? Kind of antagonizing him. And
yeah, he's not like a violent person. He has his own code, essentially. Like he's like I will. I mean, he's violent, obviously, but he's just like I'm on a bounty. If you're not on this piece of paper, I'm not gonna kill you unless you're threatening me. Like that's kind of like,
I don't think he sees, like, that's the thing. It's like if you are a bounty, he literally says that's our bread and butter. He does not see you as a human. Because it's like, but he gets joy from killing. Because it's like when he captures that one guy, and with the whip in the field, and then just starts dragging him around, or on the lake, right? Just starts dragging him around, by his neck. He's just like, he's loving it, because it's like this guy is not human to him anymore. He's literally money, and so he gets the information out of it. He will lie, like he doesn't care. He's like, I won't shoot you, just come out, and it just fucking wastes him the second he comes out. Like, that's all at the end of the day, because it's like he doesn't have to be honorable to you when you're nothing. You're his money.
True,
you're
right,
his, which is great, which makes him such a good villain, which also makes it so infuriating that he suffers zero consequences. But that's why it's like so good, because it's like on its own, this movie's got like vibes for days, and like don't even get me started on the Morricone's score.
I mean, that's like, it's kind of cheating, because it's like
it is cheating.
The opening shot when he's coming down through the snow, and it's like that, just like the most sexy fucking zoom, dude. Like, get out of here, dude. That's the whole. That's what I love about like westerns and their hard genre of like their specific shot style, where it's huge like panoramas, and then just like wide open, and then just real like just pinpoint zooms. They're beautiful. Or
the zooms
super
in this
slow.
are solid.
This one,
This is so good.
this
There's
one
so
was-
many
this
good
one was,
zooms.
opening, but the opening, I was like, oh, this soundtrack. I was like, this is sick. I was like, I wonder if he did it. You know, like if
I know, I didn't even know,
Morricone
but then
and
I saw his name
and
in the credits. I was
in
like,
the credits,
of course, like
duh.
the master, dude.
Yeah.
It
But
is. It's
yeah,
like
like-
cheating. You're just automatically like, give me the
he-
bombest
he-
Western soundtrack.
he,
Bombest
he
soundtrack. period.
invented it. He invented the electric guitar in the Western. Like it didn't exist until he did it. Like it's like it just used
Well-
to be an acoustic guitar and someone being like
Uh,
yodel-hee. Like, that
right,
was it.
it's
No,
true.
now it's like
I'm kind of like this soundtrack. I'm sad I've never heard it because I've listened to quite of Ennio Morricone over the years, and but it's like, yeah, this doesn't have like the big bombastic like iconic songs, but it is such a good mood setter, man. Like I feel like it's like atmospherically one of his best. Like it's
yeah. Oh,
sorry, my wife's making crazy noises out there. I don't know what she's doing. She's probably
Oh.
getting murdered.
I hope not. Like,
Loco.
Klaus Kinski just came.
This corpse of Klaus Kinski.
Yeah, he just came back. He's in a doll.
You know what I just remembered? Oh God, that's terrifying. I don't like that at all. I just remembered that we talk about every year we're gonna put crawl space on Horrortober, and we didn't do it. I gotta.
Oh yeah, we
I gotta
do
put
that.
because
Okay,
that's
next
the
year.
first movie I ever saw. I didn't know Klaus Kinski was like famous. I didn't know he was like this iconic actor. But I saw Crawl Space, which is a very shitty B movie. But I was like, this guy is haunting. And then it wasn't until later because he's like a fucking serial killer in it. And it wasn't until later that I realized like Klaus Kinski's like this like prestigious actor of the era and all this. that I was like, oh, and then he was in this movie. It's so weird, but. So I'm glad I don't know, because what year did Aguirre come out? It was like a few years before this, and so because he's not as young, he's pretty young in Aguirre.
Yeah, when did Aguirre?
I feel it's like
Nosferatu is like
63.
the first thing I remember him in.
That's true, yeah, because Nosferatu is like
Or-
early 70s. But I don't know, man. Dude. Like this movie, I was talking last episode. And I'm glad this one because it really is as much as I also loved Butch Cassidy, this is the exact opposite of Butch Cassidy.
And this is exactly
totally, which is what I wanted.
Yes, these are kind of it's funny. Like this is the Western I prefer when it's just grimy and
I did say,
and it because even like A Fistful of Dollars kind of gives you this a little bit, like, but it's not quite the same. It's not as like, depressing.
This
like,
is, I know, this is completely, we are always like, we're such like fucking edgelord crybabies. Like we always like we're like, yeah, I love the downer ending. It's so depressing. Yeah, I wish they were all like that. But it's, no, I even said in the last episode that it's just like, I don't know what like my perfect type of Western is, but this comes close to me for like the snowy vibe, the like old school grainy, cinematography with the zooms, the score by the one and only, the fucking as much as it is kind of annoying, but like the terrible ADR and I mean, it was pretty good ADR. I don't want to say
that's
terrible,
what I love.
but like
no, because I know what you're saying.
I can't decide if I would like it more or less if it was like perfectly recorded or as it is. You know what I mean?
Dude, that's what I love. That's the reason I actually
it's the charm.
It never takes me out of it. Like the voice dubbing, that is the part that I'm like, oh, it's frustrating. But it's usually like
when it's
main
inevitable,
cast
it's
like
easy to let it
English,
go.
or, then it's dubbed with ADR, and so it doesn't feel as awkward. But in this, it's like it was all over the place.
Well, I mentioned to you off camera. we shouldn't. We talked about this maybe quite a bit earlier today, but
yeah.
I mentioned to you. The only version I could find for a long while was the Italian dubbed version with the English subtitles, which is the one you watch, right?
Yeah.
And I watched like 30 minutes like that, but I could get past it. But if like, I hate dubs, but if it's already dubbed, like it's not the same as like dubbed because I don't want to watch it in its original performance. You can't watch this in its original performance because again, there's no audio recorded there. But So I'm like, oh, if I'm gonna watch it, I want to watch it in a language I understand, so I don't have to like be worrying about both. But I was like, whatever, it's a hassle because I could not find the English dub, dude, like anywhere. But finally, I was like, dude, this is breaking my immersion because they're supposed to be like in Utah. They're like, it's the old West America, and they're like dubbed in like Italian. And I'm like, I can't. So I did find an English version streaming, and I'm glad I did because it's like I didn't really realize it, but like. A lot of them definitely weren't speaking English, but quite a few of them were. So it's like it would line up with their mouths like really well sometimes. Especially like Klaus Kinski was definitely speaking English because the voiceover was like dubbing over his exact words over his mouth, so it looked like he was speaking a lot of the time.
Right? Didn't they do that in a Gure? They like it wasn't him that did the dub.
Yeah,
it was somebody else, right?
I know.
If I remember correctly. I think it's someone else because they didn't want to pay him, or I had a falling out or something. I don't know.
That is definitely part of it, but also because same with that movie. It's like obviously you can't record audio when they're in the jungle with 16 millimeter or 30. They actually use 35, but right. But yeah, that's what it was. They wanted him to come do the dub, like the ADR afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, but you have to pay me," and then subseen him out, and they're like,
"Yeah,
no.
right." I remember. Yeah, because I mean and that movie came out after this, so kind of funny.
No, it didn't. Did it really?
Yeah, dude, it's 72. I had to look it up.
I thought it was.
I swear to God,
I thought it was 60s. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I was like,
I thought Aguirre came out.
When...
How does he look younger in Aguirre than he does here?
No, it does. Yeah.
It's the hardened weather. And the opioids gave him jowls or something in this. I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, maybe a lot of squinting. But I love how it's like it sums it up perfectly. His character is like he's like wearing like a priest's hat and like a woman's fur coat.
I know.
And they're just like totally. It just totally shows who he is. But back to ADR real quick. I love, the dubbing sucks, but the ADR is so beautiful, especially in this one.
It's such a vibe,
the detail in this one, too. There was a lot of good, like, when he, like, picks up the potatoes, he's, like, grunting every time he, like, bends over to pick one up. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Dude,
like, it's enough. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, right. You're right. Because, like, when that first bounty hunter gets killed and he's just noshing on that chicken while talking. And it was
beautiful. That's beautiful.
It didn't it's like obviously it doesn't sound like that, but the guy recording it, dude, he went all out. He's just like, and he was like really deep throating a chicken in the sound booth. So good.
You know what?
It was so gross.
Eating in movies, like
I know it was almost as bad as The Substance, dude.
The Substance was oh my God, The Substance is amazing for that. But in this one, it's the same where it's like they're eating, and I'm like, how are they acting in this? Like when I think about it, I'm like, I want to try that at home. Go buy a Costco rotisserie and see if you can eat it and talk at the same time.
Do a monologue.
The amount that he was eating, I'm like, no wonder they dubbed it. He didn't have to talk. He was just doing this.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
He was really. I loved how he was going to town on that.
Yeah. No, you're right. The ADR, like, it just lends to such a thing. But it's just like and I can let it go because I let it go with couple of the other movies that like have just automatically have dubs over. I did it with like Kung Fu Hustle and stuff, but normally I hate dubs. But and so I'm like, I don't know, in a real world. But then again, like when we made our Western in high school, we just for funsies we did ADR over like a whole scene just because to pay tribute.
Yeah, because it is. It's like, that's we love it. Like as much as it's frustrating, I think that's it. It's frustrating because you want to be able to watch it how they intended it to be made, but usually it's not even the director's choice.
It's
like
a product.
It usually goes to a third party that's restoring it,
exactly,
or distributing it in a different country.
Yeah,
so
post production of this type of movie and in this era was notoriously crazy. Like is like, and that is part of like what lends spaghetti westerns specifically kind of their vibe, and it's just because the international nature of it is like chaotic kind of, and it's like a lot of guerrilla style shit too often, and so it's like
run and gun.
It lends to like the editor just having to fucking like, all right, here's what we got to do. We got to hire an ADR team, which it was dope in this. We got to hire different voice actors to try to get it out. And it's usually like by that point, yeah, it's completely out of the creative's hands. Like the directors and that, it's literally just like producer and studios probably. They're just like, all right, we got to finish this movie and get it to as wide an audience as possible. So let's do, we got to do the English one to get for the Americans, and then the fucking Italian one for all our bros here. And it's good, it's so weird. And call me uncultured. Call me an uncultured swine. But you are too. Yeah. I know you are. But
of course.
I didn't know it like snowed in Italy, really.
No,
I was like,
not like that. Like,
that was like snowy cliffs and Alps. I'm like, what?
Yes. I just, it's like, when I think of Italy, I don't think of like skiing, and they might not have great skiing, but like and we are uncultured. It's like, we went to public school, barely. We went to a charter school that was, it was about film. So it's like, we didn't learn that like, Italy must have a decent mountain range, because like, but it is hilarious. Like, if you're like from Italy or anything like that, come to Cold Stone of Knowledge on Reddit, or come to our YouTube.
Yeah,
let us know where you're from, and if you get like snow like this, and it's wild. The mountain range is hilarious though, because we live in Utah. Like we have a front row seat to what the mountains are.
The Rockies, they definitely
We've been into them, and they look nothing like this.
No, like good try, because honestly, internationally, no one would know the difference. But it's like, it's like the Rockies are a different vibe. But especially like those sheer cliffs and stuff that are like that they're just hanging out amongst. Right. But they're cool, man. Like I loved the setting in this movie so much. Like, and I realize, as much as like I love Hateful Eight, which obviously owes like a fuckload to this movie, but part of the reason why I love Hateful Eight, other than it's just extremely well written and everything, is it's a snowy Western, snowy violent Western, which is like, I realize is my absolute cup of tea. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's what I need. And so we're gonna make a snowy violent Western, Jordan. We gotta.
I know we should. Yeah, dude, it's very fitting, and I could only imagine like shooting through all the sour cream or the shaving cream that they
I wish
use.
it was sour cream.
Sour cream, God, that'd be brutal. But no, it's like the shaving cream. I'm always like, what do they do with it after? They rinse that down the lake? Like, I don't even know.
100%, dude. 1967 on like a fucking backlot in Italy. They just like they just like flushed it down to the gutter where all the dead horses were. Like
I know. God, I know, really though. Yeah, it kind of makes me like, I like cringe a little bit when I watch these kind of movies with like how they treat the horses. I'm like, oh, it's brutal. Like
I know, like always like, because we were talking about it last week with like the Wild Bunch and stuff. Like,
I do love like a horse is a powerful, majestic beast, and I love watching them in movies. Yeah. Like when that stagecoach is just hustling, and they're going through and they pick up the sheriff. Like it's beautiful, and I'm like, I'm sure the horse.
I didn't realize like that's so much like but a play where it's like literally I'm the new sheriff of Red Rock.
100%, yeah, dude, 100%. Like, yeah.
He's no Walton Goggins though. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Walton Goggins. Yeah. Yeah, they treated the horses pretty poorly, and it's a bummer.
I know. Well, watching like, but it is like, it's cool because it's authentic, and it's like the sheriff is riding his horse through like 4 foot, like 4 feet of snow, and that horse is having such a hard time, and it's like, it's authentic as fuck, but it's like, it's sad to watch because you're just like, oh, that poor animal. I hope it got a ton of apples after that.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah, they can do it like, quote unquote, ethically. Like they'll if they do give the horse breaks, like a horse is capable to do that. It's a climate they could probably like live in, or at least navigate through and be fine. But it's just gonna, it's like, oh, you're watching those. They're working them too hard.
Fed some horses the other day, last weekend. Oh, I was at a birthday party and they had horses somewhere in the backyard feeding them apples.
Heck yeah! Oh yeah,
it was nice. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here because it's like throughout the month, right? For Westerns, because it's like, I'm glad we're kind of ticking the boxes because sometimes Western months are all over where it's like last week we had the, very classic, like I said, like that is the movie the opposite, I would,
like you said.
Well, and it's like, but it's also got like, some dark themes, but it's not portrayed that way. And they go out, they die in a blaze of glory, and it's very heroic, though, even though they are also the criminals, which is also interesting. But like that's a movie I would show to someone who's like never really watched very many westerns to help get them into it. And then this is the movie I would show to like a diehard western fan, and also probably to be like, I'd be the hipster guy that's like, oh, you need to watch a spaghetti western, but then instead of showing them like The Good, Bad, and the Ugly or something like that,
Yeah, right.
show them The Great Silence because
I know. No, you can only show someone this movie if they're like, oh, I really like, like Good, Bad, and the Ugly or Fistful of
That's
Dollars.
true.
It's like you're like, oh, okay. Well, then you'll understand this movie then. Like you're familiar with that look or that.
Yeah.
That
I'm
style,
just
but-
like bummed that I honestly feel like it's probably not more talked about. Like it's talked about by cinephiles and Western fans, but I feel like it would be talked about a lot more if it was easier to get the English dub. Because like
I
so
know.
many,
We've talked about this where it's like Criterion has done plenty of spaghetti westerns and stuff, but it's like, yeah, we need that. Like, we need.
well, to just get
more-
more of a, it's already such a barrier for people to watch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's like a barrier for people to watch like older movies and foreign movies that like don't like that are black and white or aren't shot with the same Netflix camera every Netflix movie shot with.
Yeah.
It's like it is kind of a challenge, and so it's just like to remove one of those barriers by having it be in English, because it's like this is one I would like to recommend to my dad, for example, because he loves westerns and he loves like Good, Bad, and the Ugly and that, and I would recommend this to my dad, but I don't think there's a good way for him to watch it in English, and he wouldn't watch it in Italian, I don't think.
Yeah.
Not that he wouldn't, but like he doesn't have, he's like barely has the determination to watch it at all. But it's like having to read subtitles would be like the point for him, like that he's just like, I don't have the patience for this.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. It's like,
And honestly, I think it's like if that was like more accessible, I do think that it's like this would be, because I didn't hear about this movie until last year. I think when I was, because this made it on the list last November, pretty sure, and I came across it then because we had, I think just watched Aguirre then, like in like
You're looking
September last year or something.
yeah.
And so I was like, oh, cool. Like, Klaus Kinski's in this Western, and it's got, like, a pretty high rating on Letterboxd and stuff. Like, let's check this out. So I'm glad it won, because what was the other one that almost won this week? It was the fucking, the Fulci one. For the Apocalypse.
yeah.
Which,
yeah.
now I just want to see more, though, honestly, because, especially after having watched The Beyond last month, it's, these, like, grimy, dirty spaghetti Westerns, baby. Are my jam. So I don't know.
We got to do that one next November. We should just do like decades, but it's all or like just
I do often kind of
60s,
try and break
70s,
it up
and just
like that a little bit. Sometimes like
no, I know. I'm just saying to get more
era.
in.
Yeah.
Just watch but
I know. Well, because
anyways,
like
yeah,
next
what-
week we're doing all kind of newer ones. Like
yeah, right.
2000s.
Yeah, in the 2000s. But what was your favorite scene?
I mean, honestly, I really loved the opening and the ending. Like the opening, I was like, this always happens sometimes with movies where I'm like, oh, I feel like I don't want to watch a movie right now. Like I want to do something else, or my mind is all over the place. But I got a fucking podcast to do, and it's part of the film club. And I've said it time and time again. I'm glad that it forces me to watch movies because it's like I'm always thankful for it. And I need that little extra push sometimes. But I sat down to watch this movie, and then it's just like immediately, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I'm on board. And then he like shoots all the,
Sucked
like he
in,
comes in with the zoom shot in the snow with the music, and then shoots those guys to bits, and then shoots that guy's hands to bits to the practical effects, which were so cool. And again, you know how we feel about our 70s very red Technicolor blood.
Yes, the blood is so good.
So-
and the squibs, the overfilled squibs, it's great.
I know.
This one didn't have that many, but it like that end gunning, that
was pretty
gun
good.
down scene at the end was dope. Yeah.
It was pretty dope. And like, and then the ending, it's like, just because it was so shocking. Like I didn't really know where it was gonna go, but like, yeah, I did not expect for it to go so off the books and for Silence to just absolutely just lose.
Just lose, like yeah, and
absolutely
like
lose.
yeah.
In
I
every
thought it
way,
was
and
good.
then like that, and then just like the brutality of the fucking them shooting all the people, all the people in the bar, like it's just so brutal. And so it's like that's what's gonna stick with me for sure. It's like how this movie like left it with the message of just like this hardcore, just like nihilistic message at the end. Is great. What about you?
I mean, the chicken scene, it's pretty high up there for just like, yeah. But
That's when you touched yourself the most.
that's tricky because it's like it's like there's a lot of really good cinematography and just like great like competent filmmaking in this, but then there's like your classic like just your 60s tropes and your 60s like lighting and stuff.
Yeah.
But when the mom, like after he kills the like I love this, and it's not really necessarily like a favorite scene, but it's just I love like how she steps into the light and it's just like bits on him, you know, and it's just like that's what you get. Like I do love like that's where I'm like, oh, there's like you got your justice there. Like it's like at least she got something out of it. That was great. And I do really like when the sheriff and the like mistress lady, they're flirting with like, you know, and he's like, you're pouring my coffee perfectly. Like
right.
You know, I want you to pour my coffee for me more. Like they're doing that. That's
why
really good. That's like,
every
that's
time
a good break there.
It is. That is good. Cause it's like, but that just makes it so much more tragic at the
I
end.
know,
Because now,
I know, that's what's good.
at the
That's
time,
what
I was like, "Oh, this is cute," and like they're probably going to be implied to have a happily ever after.
Yeah.
Nope. Like absolutely not. They're both dead. And
right.
And the fact that it's like the sheriff, I was like, he did not just die. Like I'm like, he's going to come back. Like he did not just die. And I was literally like, he's good. He's good. He's good. He's good. And then the credits rolled. I'm like, he's good. He's probably good, right? He's good.
He's good. He's good. Yeah, he's good. He's on the banks, just kind of chilling. He's good.
And the fact that the mistress too, yeah, that scene is really great. I really like it. It's a moment of levity too,
right? And it is, but it's like, but it's not done as for a joke. It's not done for a laugh.
No, yeah, it's sincere, but it's
relatable. Yeah,
something to smile at in a movie that does not have a lot of smiles. Like, But no, even that chick, like her end, like she came so close too. Like she shoots at him and it like blows his hat off. And he's like, "You guys all saw that, right?" And he just mows her down too.
I know, because
he just took Silence's thing, and now it's like he's like, "Oh, that's a great idea. That's in my box of tricks now." Like it's like I'm gonna antagonize people to kill them that way. And, dude, and then he takes his gun at the end too. It's just like no dignity.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool.
I doubt there's a money minute because
it was really
these
hard.
Movies are notoriously difficult for that too.
Yeah. I found that like they sold 500,000 tickets overall. Was like that's the closest thing I got to a money minute. So take that with what you will. I could believe that with its like worldwide distribution.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, who knows? I don't know what that looks like money wise. And I couldn't even find like a budget for this, but I mean I would guess $1 million.
Oh, not much.
60s, you know, money.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Like we also like scrappy kind of like throw them together like guerrilla style movies, you know, punk rock. And that's what these movies all are, because they are just like
when they come
as a form of making money, you know, they're like, let's make it as cheap as possible so that we can make as much money as possible. But it's like, it's just like, here's some cash, just fucking go out, and here's a bunch of I almost said sour cream again. Whipped cream.
I keep
you implanted it in my mind.
Well, I kept saying like I'm still saying whipped cream. It's shaving cream.
Like, yeah.
I keep calling it whipped cream too, because it's like whatever. It's a creamy substance.
You get it. So
I gotta look though, because I feel like. Oh no, man, he was older. Okay, because I'm like it feels kind of like such a new, fresh style of filmmaking, like the late '60s.
Yeah,
you know, we're getting this and like especially foreign, but.
We said this at, I don't know if it was Butch Cassidy, but one of the other 60s movies we watched recently, where it's like everything feels fresh, but I think it's just because that's such a transitional, especially the late 60s, right? Is it like such a transitional period, not only in our culture, which I mean, but like our film culture as well. It's like, so everything feels like it's kind of doing something new and something fresh, like all the good ones anyway, that like become so transformative going into like 70s films. That you get kind of the movies you get there. And like, because you said this exact same thing recently where you're like, I'm surprised how old he is, because this movie feels so fresh and youthful and energetic and stuff. But it's just like, I don't know, things were changing. And it's like, even I read that like Corbucci was like just bummed because the late 60s were bummers. Like people were getting assassinated and stuff. So he's just like, yeah, sometimes the bad guys win, and you know, that's just how that's how it goes. And that's life. And there's no justice in the world like there is in the fairy tale movies, like the other Sergio, you know.
Yeah, he's like, you want a happy ending, go take it up with the Sergio Leone.
I got a couple reds for you.
Well, let's hear them
if you can hack it. So Clones of People 2 says, first watch, I had known this for a while but never got around to it. This was fantastic, and I'm really happy that this got chosen. I'm really glad of the variety in this group and that the film of the week could literally be anything. Thanks. Yeah, I agree. I love that. It's like, I never know what I'm going to watch. It's great. The setting of this was so striking. The harsh landscape covered in snow added an extra layer to the atmosphere. The characters are so good, and the reversal of expectations of the archetype is brilliant. In a typical Western, Klaus Kinski would be played by John Wayne as a dashing do-gooder. Speaking of Kinski, obligatory fuck him. What an actor. Even with the dubbing and subtitles, he still managed to give an outstanding performance. Silence is such a wonderful take on the man with no name trope. It's almost a pity he can't get a series. I know, right? And his like backstory, they just kind of brush over it, but it's like
that was like the weakest. That was like the weakest part though to me. But it's fine. It was a dream sequence, so
I kind of agree, but like at the same time, seeing the like the landscape not be so like that, it's like, oh, that was when I was innocent. There was it was a beautiful and green, and now everything's just cold and just white. And the fact that it's just, you know, like bounty hunters cut his throat and everything. Anyway, he goes on to say
he is like Batman. His parents get killed.
He is Batman.
Jesus Christ.
He goes on to say, I love the ending. It's a perfect way to wrap up this film without compromising on its morals. Read the happier alt ending I posted in another comment.
And he posted the YouTube clip.
Oh, he did?
So everybody
cool.
out there in podcast land, go check it out on the Reddit. He posted like, because they shot it and they were going to distribute it.
They shot it, huh? I didn't know.
They shot it and they were going to put it on the end for America, but then they decided not to.
Cool. I'll read that comment as well, because I didn't really read it. I did. And but I think you guys should know, because we didn't talk about it. Overall, he goes on to say, overall, a fan of Westerns and spaghetti Western being my favorite. This was a treat. Oh, yeah, Morricone, great as always, obviously. And then he says also the alternate happy ending. In this ending, Loco draws his gun without waiting to be prompted by silence. Suddenly, Burnett, having survived falling into the frozen lake, rides into town on horseback and shoots Loco in the head, allowing Silence to kill the remaining bounty hunters. Burnett frees the outlaws as Pauline, you're right, takes the bandages on Silence's burnt right hand off, revealing a gauntlet that he used for protection. Before applying bandages to the wounded left hand, as Burnett takes the thieves to the local jail to wait their amnesty, he asks Silence to become his deputy, which he accepts with a smile. Because I said in my comment, like, that would work if they went so over the top of it, like everything was so cheery and the score totally changed to where it was like almost like a fuck you, you know what I mean, with how happy it is. Like, it's like not satisfying, but it's like obviously it's sticking with what it is. It's like you got to keep the ending the way it is.
I know that. Yeah, the ending's so good.
I didn't know they actually filmed it, so that's interesting. I see he posted that. I'm gonna have to go check that out. And then I also got another Reddit comment. It's Importance Few 3856 says, just finished this morning, a first watch, and it was fitting since it's the first snowball of the year here in SLC. Nice, a fellow. He says, I watched the Italian version with English subtitles. The ending was a crushing blow, wasn't it? It made me think of the end game when Captain America was battered and broken, standing on the hill looking at Thanos and his horde, being the only hope left in this world for a better life. But in this case, sadly, the hero was snuffed out and silenced like the cold winter does to a lot of things. I think the word silence takes on many different meanings and is more than a name. In this, it works side by side with the elements to hide the screams, to cover the blood, to break down the trusty horse, to freeze up your only protection in a gun when you need it most. I forgot about that part. I like that.
Yeah, that
when the gun's frozen.
Uh-huh.
And he says, this is my first Corbucci, but definitely won't be my last. A masterful Western, in my opinion. Speaking of masterful, how about Loco? Nothing short of ruthless. No sense of decency or remorse. Klaus Kinski was perfect fit for the role. His distinct features adds to the character. I knew I recognized him from somewhere, and upon looking him up, I have seen him in Aguirre, The Wrath of God, another great film. Now, a question I want to ask you guys. Do you feel like there was any animal abuse in this with the horses? Maybe they were very well trained, but it seemed like they were having a really hard time in the snow and were exhausted and everything. I mean, I can't say for sure, but almost certainly.
I know, right.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, guys, for those comments. Those are great. I'm glad you guys like the movies. I know we didn't even mention, like, the title of this movie is so good, too, because it's like,
oh, yeah.
The Great Silence. It's like, the character's name is Silence, but he's like literally, you could interpret it as like, oh, the Great Silence. He's the Great Silence, but it's like he's not great at all. It's like another subversion, but also the Great Silence being the death. You know what I mean?
The unbounding nature too. Just
the Great Silence. Yeah, everything. It's like being out in it, because it's like, especially when it snows. You know, like when it gets so quiet when it snows, it like dampens all of it. That's the Great Silence. Like, I don't know. It's awesome.
Yeah,
I really like this movie.
Fantastic.
So
yeah, solid.
Yeah. So anyway, go watch it, check it out for yourself if you haven't seen it. I think it's probably kind of slept on. And yeah, join us next week when we will be talking about. We're doing kind of more modern westerns next week. I don't know what we're watching yet. I still got to get transition to getting back onto a normal schedule from Hortober. Novembers are always kind of weird like that, but it's cool. I mean, you guys are cool. We're cool. Everyone's cool, man. I'm good. So, but yeah, we'll be watching more of new ones. So go vote on that, because I'll be posting that in a couple days, and we'll watch a more modern Western. Sadly, I almost put for the poll just The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, and First Cow, like those being the only ones.
I know those. Yeah, those really should be only two. I can't believe we didn't even mention. I guess this is our honorary.
This is the one mention
of those two films.
I know. Because I was looking up like westerns, and I was just like saw them. And I'm like, I can't.
I know they're so good.
I need to watch it again because we've only seen it once, and I've seen Assassination Jesse James like a dozen times, but.
I know. Well, not enough.
Not enough. No. So I might need to squeeze First Cow in this month anyway, just to.
Yeah.
Just get a vibe.
It's so good, dude. It's so good. I got it. Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
you guys.
Kelly Reichardt's coming out with a movie soon too. I think actually I'm gonna have to look that
sick.
up.
Okay.
I just remembered. Anyway. So yeah, join us next week. Western's gonna keep it rolling. So yeah, come comment. Thank you to the guys on the Reddit. Thank you for coming to comment. Thank you for everyone that votes. Thank you to the Patreons, obviously, the few of you there are.
You guys
great.
rock.
Well,
we love your support.
We'll get you stickers one day. Clones of People too. I haven't forgot about you. I'll get you stickers.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry.
One of these days.
They're coming your way.
Well,
my life was going to go back to normal in a couple weeks, so we'll...
there you go. Not mine. I am the Great Silence, you know. All right. We'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.